Okay, good morning to our viewers, participants here in Zoom. Sir BK, Ma'am Chris, Sir Fa, Sir Jobs, and also how about sa ating mga viewers naman through Facebook? I don't have a view sa comment parts of Facebook, but good morning. I'd like to greet you a wonderful Friday morning. By the way, I am Jeline Desacula, COO of Ripple Kids Educational Services Inc. We simply call it RKESI. And right now, it is my honor to host today's Principles of Scaling. Yes. And hopefully you can hear and see me clearly pa din. I'm a bit, to be honest, I'm a bit worried lang sa ating connection. Hopefully we can see this through until the very end. Okay, sige. So anyway, now, Principles of Scaling mission. All right, so if you may be wondering, why do we do this every week? Again, we're here every Friday without fail. I think the only time na nakita ko ng fail is yung may CEO Summit tayo. But why do we do this? Basically, it is this. Install DNA principles that scale organizations. So we help build institutions for legacy beyond simply making money. And every POS day, the goal is for everyone, as in everyone here attending via Zoom or Facebook, to get one key takeaway that you can immediately apply in your organization. So not just knowledge that you can gain from this experience, but also something really practical that you can apply, implement right away. Yes, right away. So yan po yung ating pinaka-goal for our viewers, participants via Zoom or Facebook sa lahat ng members ng CEO Insights Asia. Yes, now to continue, it's again December. Ang bilis ng panahon, no? December 2 na agad. Parang kailan lang we were doing the CEO Summit and now here we are, last month of the year. So our focus for the month of December is all about the theme, this one, multiplier. So what does this mean? Just a quick background. Basically, this is we expand life-changing impact in an ever-increasing measure. So we have 3 behavioral indicators here: functioning in systems, scaling in numbers, and moving in teams. I'm not sure if okay pa bang ating slide dyan. So just a quick overview of our topics for the month of December. We have I believe 5 weeks. Ayan, flash na sa ating screen. So week 1, all about strategy again. Our main topic, our line yan is ending strong. Very timely na sa December siya. Week 2 naman, it will be all about the word smooth. Week 3, stockpiled. Week 4, stable. Week 5, shared. Ito yung interesting sa mga sequence ng itong topic sa ating principles of scaling. Sometimes it may not make sense at first, but later makikita mo yung connection sa bawat isa. And really, the insight, the wisdom that you'll gain, hopefully ma-apply right away. Sige, anyway, now moving on to our announcements. Just a few announcements today. First is about the executive member invitation. So just a quick background, we have 40 plus CEO executive circle members and from more than 30 companies or brands. So as you can see here, ayan, I think as time goes by, lumiliit na ating mga logos, dumadami tayo. So multiple circle meetings happening from circle multipliers. We have for men, women, and for couples. And the purpose is the weekly intensive CEO leadership education. Again, I'd like to highlight on the word intensive. So intensive yung preparation ng mga tao behind it, the faculty for the writer ng write-up sa POS, and also the circle multiplier facilitating the circle meetings. So we're hoping, aiming for an intensive participation as well from everyone. So yes, para tayo on the same wavelength tayo sa part na yan. Second, or another announcement is, yes, we have new executive member. This is Miss Princess Ann Colado. Shout out. Hopefully nakikinig siya ngayon. Yes, friend ko to. Ang dami namin pinag-usapan sa CEO Summit. So from her, she said this one, CEO Insights Asia for me is the book smart. The living example ng mga nabasa naming books. Kaya hindi mahirap sa amin mag-grow. Kasi maliban sa nabasa na namin sa books, nakikita pa namin siyang working. Para na kaming nag-MBA na sa siksik. Liglig na learnings, principles, and practices. Wow. Na-imagine ko na, rinig ko yung boses niya while reading this one. Shout out again to Mom Princess of Sellers Hub. Yes. Okay. Now to continue, another announcement. Yes, this one. We have this organizational DNA design workshop happening on December 6, 2022, Tuesday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So this is inclusive of 1 year executive membership sa CEO Insights Asia and 1 executive pass for the CEO Summit 2023. Organizational DNA design workshop. So I think I believe this is a very interesting topic. Hopefully we can make time for this. Unfortunately for me, hindi muna. But yes, I think this is something na if available ka na may time naman, we shouldn't miss. Okay, and highlighted, yes, to be facilitated by Sir Fa here. Okay, sige. So anyway, now again, going back, our topic, week 1 for today's principles of scaling is this one, ending strong. Okay, and all right, so without further delay, I think, sige. So anyway, medyo nag-iba lang ating notes dito. So to briefly introduce our faculty for today's Principles of Scaling is one of the founders and the executive advisor of CEO Insights Asia. He is an investor, an advisor, a husband, and a daddy. So the man who iconized the black suit and red tie. Also, isingit ko lang, this is really the person na behind the scenes, makikita ko talaga yung parang pagsisikap niya for CEO Insights Asia. Today, I'm not sure if he's really feeling very well. Medyo iba yung boses niya, but grabe yung preparation niya for today's Principles of Scaling. So if you know this guy, can you please send Fa sa ating comment section sa Zoom or sa Facebook comment if you can still hear and see me clearly. Yes. Those initials are powerful indeed. So without further delay, presenting to you the faculty for today, Mr. Florentino A. Hernando, Sir Fa. Palakpakan naman.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Grabe. Puwera lang sa Zoom. Ako, high blood tayo nung pinaggagawa mo, Zoom. Meron kaya tang ginawang update eh. Kasi every time we try to click something, it's not working or it's moving erratically. Anyway, happy Friday, everyone. Thank you, Ma'am Jill. Thank you for being here for our participants here at Zoom. Ayan, sabi, type fa lang daw. Inuna ako na fa you. Para masaya tayong lahat. Ayan. Good morning. Formally introducing myself. My name is Fa. I'm one of the founders and the executive advisor of CEO Insights Asia. And our purpose here in this ecosystem to remind everyone, paulit-ulit every Friday, that we're here to infuse ideas that build lasting companies. Last night, we were at a Comizen, we had a whiteboard session, and they have a glimpse na of when we talk about lasting companies, they had an idea what we meant by that. But basically, we want to build companies into something that we can transfer to our children, our children's children, and to the next generation. Ayan. So, wala akong pa-plug eh. Wala ba nagpapadala naman dyan? Baka naman. So, anyway, wala akong pa-plug. So, agendas na tayo. Excited na ba kayo? I'm very excited for this session because this is a strategy and this being multiplier. So, combination of the two, it's very exciting kasi this is one of my passion. Later, malalaman nyo kung ano yung, what I mean when I say the reason why I'm very excited. But at the end of this episode, you will be able to practice 3 activities of a multiplier. So, not circle multiplier, that's a different conversation, but 3 practices how to multiply yourself. Excited na ba kayo? Ayan, please type excited na me para naman makita ko may engagement tayo before we proceed to the agendas. Ayan, or grabe na, all caps. Si Evan Comizen is here. All right, so conversation starter tayo and then we'll do a definition of strategy para align tayo. Importante na we're talking the same language, we're reading for the same book, we're on the same page. So, define natin yung strategy. We'll talk about 2 types of multiplier. Throw in some facts and figures. And then we'll do a case study. O yan na, gustong-gusto nyo yung facts and figures. Gustong-gusto nyo yung case study. Nilagyan na natin yan. And then we'll talk about why it matters to be a multiplier or why multiplying matters. Then the knowledge gap. I think this is, I mentioned this last week. But mukhang medyo na mas nakaka-relate na ngayon yung mga tao when I share this. So we're gonna focus on this one and then we'll get practical. Ayan. So how many time do I have? I still have 45 minutes. Marami ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon. Excited na ba kayo? If you are excited, alam nyo na ang tradition natin. Please type, hello CEOs, and then your company name. Represent nyo dyan sa chat box para makita natin kung sino ang nandito sa Principles of Scaling at handang makinig ng sermon. Di ba? Kay Father. Ayan. So we have MN Starnet, we have Escasi, we have Comizen, we have Sam Enterprises. Ayan, we have Father. Ayan na, di ba? Andyan si Love sa Facebook. Andyan si Love from Arquesi. Our host, nakapagpahinga ngayon. Grabe naman. Sana all, di ba? Ayan. Si Alay from Sellers Hub. The rest. Ayan, we have Coach Ron, Unlock Strengths. At yung iba, bala kayo dyan. Sige, so start na tayo. Conversation starter muna tayo. We have Darwin, one of the founders and the board of Escasi. Kasi last week dapat siya eh. Kaya lang, ewan ko ba kung ano nangyari dito. Sabi, bawi ako sir, bawi ako. Alright, so ito yung conversation starter for Darwin. Darwin, can you give him the capability to unmute? Ayan, so ito yung question for all. And then siguro interaction na rin from the people, no? Answer this question via chat. As CEO, why does multiplying yourself matter? Okay, so para makita natin yung mga sagot ng mga tao natin dito sa Facebook at sa Zoom, right? So, Darwin, sir, floor is yours.
Hello, sir. Hello. Narinig po ba?
Yan,
sir. Nagbabawi?
Oo, bawi.
Hello po. So, good morning po sa lahat. Then, yan. So, as CEO, why multiplying yourself matters? Simple lang yung sagot, sir. Hindi ako si Superman.
Ayun!
yan. Pero, joking, sir. So, pero dito, sir, kasi as owner, pinakamahalaga sa atin, na currency ay time. So, once na nagawa na natin siya, hindi na natin siya pwede. So, dito, mahalaga na para makapag-move forward tayo or mas parang maging strong yung foundation ng company natin. Dapat hindi lang ikaw yung nag-iisip at saka nagte-take ng action. So kung mamumultiply mo yung sarili mo, parang mas mapapabilis or mas mapapalayo yung takbo ng company na binubuo natin. So, yun lang naman, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Darwin. No, I love that nasabi niya, dalawa eh. Yung take home ko ron is bibilis at mas lalayo yung performance natin o yung progress natin. Doon sa mga sa mga may salute. Oy, grabe 'yon. Comment dito. Grabe 'yon, di ba? Ayan. How about the others? If you want to you can comment sa Facebook. Why do you think multiplying yourself matters? Para may engagement tayo, right? So, let's talk about strategy. Para may alignment nga tayo, we need to be on the same page kasi itong pag-uusapan natin for the next 4 weeks. So when we talk about strategy, this is the fundamental methodology an institution uses to achieve its purpose. Pero sisimplihan na lang natin, it's basically the how. Put simply, strategy is how we plan to achieve our purpose. And then later, if this is the theme of the month, we're going to connect it to being a multiplier. So the second is, i-define natin yung types of multiplier. Because last night, funny thing is, last night we were at Comizen, we were doing a whiteboard session, and nandun ang self-made team, nandun si Dominic, and then yung partner niya, sila Ace Clarin, and then sino pa ba nandun? Sila Rocket, sila Jay, they were there, and we've been talking about the org DNA, and we're talking about the mission, and we're talking about the purpose, and we're talking about org DNA, and so on and so forth. And then around siguro mga magdadalawang oras na, finally, someone said, ano ba yung DNA? You know? So parang there was a knowledge gap, doon sa kasi they attend the circles for sure, but they weren't as deeply engaged yet in our community. So they have kumbaga may gap between what we're trying to say and what they're hearing. So since there may knowledge gap, we're not on the same page. There was a sort of a struggle how to move forward. So sabi natin, no, we're going to define it para alay tayo. So ganun din dito, we're going to talk about multiplier. If you've been part of the ecosystem, we've been talking about multiplier. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so may dalawang types tayo ng multiplier. The one is the values, and the second one is the person. The values is we expand life-changing impact in an ever-increasing measure. So as at this ecosystem, if you're part of this, we don't plan. We impact positively, hindi naman negatively, those who interact in this ecosystem. Please type yes I if you can still relate para alam ko nandiyan kayo. Tapos heart and share naman doon sa mga nasa Facebook para naman may mga heart. Ayan, mag-heart ako. Ayan. O, di ba? So yon, yes I. Yes I. So yun ang gusto natin. We want to provide positive impact in an ever-increasing measure, and that's the value of one of the values of CEO ecosystem that you belong to. Now, the second one is the person. So, pag-usapan natin yung multiplier as a person. Pag sinabi natin, itong tao to, multiplier to. Okay? What do we mean by that? So, multiplier as a person is someone who accomplished beyond individual capabilities through reproduction of oneself in others. So, himayin natin siya. There's this someone, you've met this person for sure. May mga kakilala kayong ganito na parang pag tinignan natin, we have the same 24 hours per day. Pero this person seems to accomplish more. Mas successful siya, mas marami siyang nagagawa. Pero parehas lang naman kaming 24 hours isang araw. Parehas lang naman kami ng kanin yung kinakain. Tawa naman, di ba? So, he's able to accomplish more, pero parehas lang kami ng limitations. How does he do that? And this is the key. He reproduces himself in others. So, reproduction or duplication, paulit-ulit natin maririnig yan in this episode. So, pakitype nga dyan, reproduction, para alam kong nandiyan pa kayo. Right? So, being a multiplier is being able to reproduce yourself. And since you are able to duplicate yourself in others, then you are able to get a high ROT. Okay? Ano yung ROT? Return on time. Kasi tayo as investors, we talk about ROI. Nag-ROI ba ako? Nag-return ba yung investment ko? Now, multipliers get a higher return on their time. Kaya mas marami sila na-accomplish despite their limited individual status. So far, so good. Nakaka-relate pa? Ayan. Reproduction. Ayan. Di ba? Ayan. So, ano natin siya? Let's throw in some facts and figures para mas makarelate tayo. Okay? So, why is it important that we reproduce ourselves? So, this is from Harvard Business Review 2020. So, alam niyo naman dito sa ecosystem, you always get the best. Diba? So, ito nga, Harvard nga tayo. Yan ang mga inaaral natin dito. So, Harvard is one of the best schools, and this is the most recent findings, and they saw that almost half of board members reported not having a succession plan, an effective succession plan for CEOs. Ibig sabihin, what they're saying here is, we don't have a great plan or an effective plan to duplicate our CEO. So, ang challenge niyan, and this is half, almost 50%. So, ibig sabihin yan, pag nag-resign yung mga CEO, 50% of the CEO resigns in the study, 50% of that company will definitely crash. Kasi walang CEO leaderless Why? Because they don't have an effective plan or process to reproduce or duplicate their CEO. That's not me, that's Harvard. Yes, I, please type yes, I, if you can relate to this finding. Yan. The next is, sabi rito, 39% of respondents says they do not have a viable internal candidate for CEOs. This is from Stanford naman. So what they're saying is, we are not able to duplicate our CEO, 39, almost 40%. Right? So imagine that. That's what? A third of the companies don't have a strong number 2 in the event na masagasaan yung CEO nila, yari ang kumpanya nila. Yon, di ba? Yan yung sinasabi ng findings na yan. 75% of CEOs whose company stock rose during their first year were still in the same job 2 years later. However, 83% of CEOs whose company stock fell during their first year were not at the same position. What's the significance of this study? Because the significance of this study is because CEOs back then, because the world back then is a bit stable, CEOs are expected to stay in their role for about 20 years. Yun yung CEO life nila. They will be CEO for 20 years. Kahit ano mangyari, 20 years ako. Not anymore. CEO lifespan of CEOs in their position are getting shorter and shorter. You know, at ito, isang proof dito is that if you're in your first year, you did not perform, next year, wala ka na. Okay? We find another one. But those who perform immediately, they are able to say they earn their CEO role. So that's what these findings are saying. Ito pa, companies that have to fire their CEO lose an average of, pakitsat nga, ilan daw ang nalulos nila? Para ano natin dyan? 1.4 billion US dollars. This is a stupid question. Is that a big amount or a small amount? Diba? Don't answer that. Diba? That's a very big amount. And this is in dollars. So if we lose a CEO, we lose money along with it. Now, this is CEO level. Diba? Compared with companies with a succession plan. But if you are able to duplicate that CEO, halos parang wala lang. Tuloy-tuloy lang. Diba? Now, let's put it in context. For you, for me, for us here, we don't need to be the CEO na kailangang palitan. That's not it. But ang gusto kong sabihin is, how about our supervisors? How about our managers? Kung ang CEO, pag nawawalan ng pera ang company, how about sa ating mga supervisors too? Nawawalan din tayo ng money pagka ganon. So we have to have a strong succession plan. Make sense? Yes, I? Okay. Next. Second generation leaders of family-owned businesses have 60% failure rate of the succession from second to third, and the third generation is 90%. Okay. Now, we've talked about this in about a few months ago, the principle of shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. You know, the first generation build the wealth, the second generation enjoys the wealth, the third generation loses the wealth. So from poor to rich to poor in just 3 generations. Bakit? Kasi hindi strong ang succession plan. The CEO was not able to duplicate himself. This is what happens if we are not able to multiply ourselves. And this is what happens if our leaders are not able to multiply themselves. Make sense? Yes, I. Please type yes, I, if you can relate to what I'm saying. Yan. So, transition tayo. Yes, I. Yes, I. Yes, aray. Yes, I. Kailangan ng strong number 2. Yun yung gusto nating sabihin dito. So, let's do a case study. I opted to have a case study na something that we can relate with. Okay, so hindi ako kumuha ng foreign case study. Kumuha ako ng someone na, huwag na tayo lumayo. Let's take it closer to home. Someone local, the late Henry C. Sr., the master multiplier. Right? So, when I was studying for this material, sabi ko, grabe to si Henry. I researched the companies and sabi ko, ito na lang yung, marami pa yan, mga companies. Pero sabi ko, ito yan lang i-highlight ko kasi ito yung pinaka-common natin. So, we have the late Henry C. SM Store. Diba? SM Department Store, SM Hypermarket, they have grocery, BDO and China Bank, kanila may investment sila sa BDO, sa bank, Goldilocks, I just figured out last night na Goldilocks is a part of SM Investments, SMDC, Condo, and Watsons. Yan. So here, these are the companies, a few of the companies of the late Henry C. And in my lifetime, I have never seen Henry C. na nagbenta ng sapatos, even though he was the founder, or ng damit sa department store. Never ko siya nakitang nag-cashier sa grocery. Never ko siya nakitang nag-teller sa BDO. Never ko siyang nakitang nagbenta ng macaroons. Never siya nagbenta ng condo, nagbenta ng condo, at never siya nakita nagbenta ng biogesic sa Watson. Am I making sense? You know, so he is a master multiplier. This is what you call the law of leverage. He was able to get a large return on his time. He duplicated himself through his leaders, his CEOs, and those CEOs duplicated themselves, and that's why they were able to scale. Yes, please type yes, if you can relate to Henry C. Sr., the late Henry C. Si Tatang. Yun nga ang sabi niya. So, imagine that. Now, let's bring it to you, CEO. Can we, di ba, isa pa nga lang company natin, hindi na natin maiwan. Patay, di ba? Challenge yun. I'm working with lots of CEOs, and some people are saying, well, it's December, we're too busy, that's why I'm not spending any time, and so on and so forth, kasi I have to do something. Kasi wala akong mapag-iwanan. Wala akong mapagkatiwala na pag-iiwanan ko nung bahay. Parang, ang question, and that's not new, okay? That's not new. We have worked with a lot, and yan ang common na sinasabi. And sa akin, ang sinasabi ko na sa kanila, then bakit mo hinire kung hindi mo naman pinagkakatiwalaan? Make sense? Yes, please type yes, if you're still with me. Ayan. So, let's talk about tama eh. Tama eh. Wag mo i-hire. Di ba? Kung di mo labo naman nun, di ba? Okay, so, sabi nito, why multiplying matters? I'll give you 3 reasons why we need to multiply. Number 1 is series of ventures. If we're able to multiply ourselves, for example, I have another CEO, like for example, si Darwin, I'm able to build something, and since I'm an entrepreneur, I built something, and I'm able to multiply myself, I created another me. That means you can now create a new venture. Kasi that person can start a new venture. So if you want to start something, you need to duplicate yourself. Kasi mahirap mag-start ka ng something na hindi pa nga stable yung isa. Ang tawag doon, premature scaling. Well, stabilize muna natin tong isa, and that's the fastest way to kill your startup, by the way. Maraming namamatay. Most companies die not out of starvation, lack of opportunity. It's indigestion. Sobrang daming opportunity, hindi pa naduduplicate yung sarili nila, kinuha na. Ang problema, kasi di ba, kaya ko namang gawin ito eh. Yeah, but hanggang ilan ang kaya nating i-manage? So dito in the industry we're in, and this is what I've been saying over and over again kahapon, and this is what I've been repeating myself this past few weeks, sa laro natin, inip-talo. Huwag tayong masyadong magmadali. Ang maiinip talo rito. Kasi we will either premature scale, or we will do some decisions out of, we'll make a lot of errors because masyado tayo nagmamadali. You know, make sense? Make sense? Please type yes, if you're tama eh. Dapat talaga stable muna. Yan. So before we move to the next venture, we need to stabilize first. And if we duplicate ourselves, then we can stabilize this one, and this one is being launched by another person who we reproduced. The second is there's sustainability. In the game we're in, it's not about how many you start. Hindi tayo how many start ang ventures. It's how long you last in this game. Ang daming ang startup, sabog naman lahat. Diba? Doon tayo sa isa or dalawa, pero lasting naman. Make sense? Diba? Hindi sa any idiot can start something. But it takes skill to make that startup sustainable. And the only way to make your startup sustainable is when you duplicate yourself. Kasi, lalo na your DNA. Because when you duplicate yourself, your DNA is transferred to this person. Now, for example, my result as a person is like this. When you move to the next venture, natural, iiwan natin ito. Pag hindi natin na-duplicate yung sarili natin at hindi natin ka-DNA yung pinag-iwanan natin, hindi parehas ng resulta. Make sense yan? Don't be intro boys yon. Wag puro intro. Di ba? Tapusin yung kanta. So, ganon. It's really, it creates sustainability. Okay? So, once we leave and go to the next one, merong sasalo na kaparehas natin yung dugo, consistent siya. Sustain yung venture, we start another round. That's how we scale. And last but not the least is, yun na nga, scaling. Since marami na tayong kagaya natin, aray! May umaaray, di ba? Ayan. Since marami na tayong kagaya natin, marami na tayong maa-accommodate. Kasi we as a person, kagaya nga na sinabi ni Darwin kanina, kahit pag gaano tayo kagaling, hindi tayo si Superman, and even Superman has kryptonite. Limited pa rin tayo. Right? So, for us, but the opportunities are endless. Hindi tayo maubusan ng opportunities. I think the FOMO, the fear of missing out at pag nagpapadala ng hype, it's because you don't have a sense of strong purpose. Kaya ang nangyayari, kung ano yung bago, kung ano yung makinang, yun ang hinahabol. Relate? Please type relate if you're mapanakit. Ayan, sapakan tayo. Di ba? So, listen, you have visions. Kayong kayong entrepreneur. We're all entrepreneurs here. We have our vision. And the beauty of it, you know that vision, kaya naman natin gawin yun right now eh. We have the money to make it happen. The problem is, do we have the leaders to sustain that? Yun ang challenge. It's not about starting. Anyone can start. It's how you sustain it. And second, it's not about how big you grow. It's how big, how you can sustain that growth. It's really all about sustainability. Ayan, ang dami nag-chat. Relate daw sila. Hi, Melaya, sorry na. Ayan. So, listen, the only way to grow an organization is to grow its people. Yeah. Kasi ang growth, when you're good at what you do, opportunities will come. The problem is we're so good at what we do, hindi naman lahat sa organization kasing galing natin eh. At least not yet. And until then, we have to hold off growth. You know, I was talking to Chairman Lee, and if you're following me, you saw that. We were talking to Chairman Lee last Tuesday. And he's the chairman of Call Financial, and we were picking his brain. And tinanong ko sa kanya, anong masasabi? He's a very down-to-earth guy. Nilibre pa nga ako ng spaghetti. Chairman, thank you. Nagpakape kami, nag-imbita, tapos siya nagpakape, siya pa nagbayad. Yan ang di ba? Yan ang gusto nating mga kasama. At sasabihin ko na, no, na isa siya sa faculty natin for CEO Summit. Kaya kung hindi ka pa nagsasign up sa Summit, hindi ko na alam kung anong gagawin ko sa'yo, di ba? So anyway, going back, so we were having this conversation with Chairman, and then sabi niya, yung sinabi niya, hindi ko makakalimutan yon kasi kami ni Chris, kami ni Mel, we were there, and we really, it resonated with us nung nagbi-briefing kami. Sabi, anong biggest takeaway mo? And same ang sinabi namin, 2 words, controlled growth. Okay? They controlled their growth. They did not grow too fast, and they did not control too slow. They scaled, in other words. And ang sabi niya ron, the reason why we're still here while many others have failed is because of that. Controlled growth. Okay? And Chairman Lee is, go search him. He's called the millionaire maker. He makes millionaires. So, ang point here is someone who's been there, who's done that, who has the proven track record. He's a publicly listed company. And he's saying controlled growth. In a world ng mga taong maraming sinasabi, wala pa naman napapatunayan about grow, here's a chairman, a millionaire maker, saying, grow at all costs, di ba? Grow at all costs, di ba? Benta mo lahat, pati kaluluwa mo. Di ba? Baka benta lang ng ano. Here's a chairman who's been there, done that, who has a track record saying, no, control your growth. And isang takeaway natin dito, sinasabi ko palagi, surround yourself and take advice only from people whom you want to exchange places with. Yes, I. Please type yes, I. Kung relate kayo. Ayan, ang dami ko naman sinabi. Hindi ako nagsashare. Well, ginusto nyo naman to eh. Yes, always run with the best. Only run with the best. Okay? Because who you are, who you surround yourself with. Kaya yan ang mga sinasamahan natin. Sila Gian Havilona, sila Kim Lato, sila Steve C. Yan ang mga ano natin. Sila Chairman Lee, sila Edmund. Yan. Okay. So, what's the difference between the developer and the multiplier? Kasi narinig, okay, you talk about multiplier and then you talk about developer. Okay. Ano difference ng dalawa? Okay, so here's the thing. When you become a CEO, when you become a leader, hindi na CEO, when you become a leader, your job is to develop people. Now, it doesn't happen, ilang oras pa ba ko yan? It doesn't usually happen because of three things. Skill, will, or deal. A deal, skill, or will. Deal, I didn't know na trabaho ko pala mag-develop ng tao. Okay? Remember, when you become a business leader or a leader of any sort, your job is to develop people. Okay, that's your job. Second is skill. I know it's my job to develop people, but I don't know how. So that can be addressed. Okay. The third one is will. I know it's my job, and I know how to develop people. I just don't want to. Okay, that's will. That's a different conversation. So, dito, nililinaw natin, if you're in this ecosystem, if you're listening to this episode, you as a leader, your job is to develop people. Yesterday, sa whiteboard session, yun yung sinabi ko. Sabi ko kila Jay, kila Dominic, kila Ace, you know, at the end of the day, as CEO, you're not in the e-com industry. You're not in the grocery industry. You're not in the digital content industry. You're in the people development industry. Because as CEO, once you grow, you need to develop people. At wag nating ilimit ang sarili natin sa kung anong industriya na tayo nandito. Because the more leaders you have, the more you multiply yourself, the more industries you can penetrate. Please type, yes, I, if nakaka-relate pa kayo sa akin. Ayan, iinom lang ako Alright. Sige, so going back, so anong difference between a developer and a multiplier? Okay, the difference is a developer rather teaches another person. So you're developing someone, you teach what you know to a person. You're developing them. A multiplier, yan, teaches another person. Pakitype nga kung ano yung red highlighted word. Para makita ko kung sino yung engaged sa atin. Yan. How to teach another person. That's the difference between a developer and a multiplier. As a leader, automatic yan. You are a developer. By default, you're a developer. Your job is to develop people. But being a multiplier, that's a choice. Something that no one can decide for you. Or for me, you know, this is something that we need to decide ourselves. Am I going to be a multiplier? Because by default, I'm already a developer. Okay? So let's put in the numbers. Ako naman, alam niyo naman ako, mahilig ako sa numbers Para makita natin yung impact. So the law of the numbers, the developer, ito yung usual pattern. The developer, first round, I will teach 10 people what I know. So they were able to reproduce themselves. Now, 11 na sila. Second round, okay, I'm going to develop another 10 since na-develop ko na to 10. Excuse me. So he develops another 10 and meron na siyang naunang na-develop na 10, that becomes 21. Oh, di ba? When you develop, that's how you leverage yourself. When you reproduce yourself, dati isa ka lang. But because you develop someone, naging 21 na ang capability mo. Right? Let's go now to the multiplier. The multiplier, in the first round, the multiplier teaches someone how to teach another person. At first glance, parang wala nagbago. 1 times 10 equals 10. Diba? Eh, yung developer nga ako, 1 times 10, 11 kami. Nadagdagan ako ng 10. Ito parang 10 pa lang kami. And here, the second round onwards, that's what you call exponential growth. This is a quantum leap. Okay? The second round, those 10 teaches 10 more people, they become 100. Make sense? Yes, I. Please type yes, I, if you're still with me. So it's very critical that as CEOs, by default, we're developer, but we aspire and become a multiplier. It is intentional. Hindi yan nangyayari ng kusa. Pagiging developer nga, you have to be intentional. Diba? Lalo na maging multiplier. Hindi yan mangyayari, dahil leader ako, developer na ako. No, you have to make an effort to develop someone. Grabe, literally, multiplier talaga. Yes, I, sabi ni Maymay. Ayan. Diba? That's what you call exponential growth. Kaya here's the challenging part, I believe, for people. That's why they don't teach how to teach. Is initalo nga eh. Nagtuturo ko, parang wala naman nangyayari. Parang wala naman. Parang nung ilang beses ko na ginagawa to, ilang taon ko na ginagawa to, parang wala naman nangyayari. But, I remember the story of, what do you call that? The Chinese bamboo. Diba? Na Chinese bamboo grows like, you have to water it for like 6 years. Wala kang makikita. Tatanim mo yung Chinese bamboo, and then you water it for 6 years, and then 5 years, and then wala kang makikita. And then 5 years and 1 week, meron ka makikitang konting tubo. And then the coming weeks, it grows into large tree. Diba? So I think it grows in after several weeks, let's say 8 weeks. Just go Google the details. Pero ganun yung bamboo tree. For 6 years, you have just water, wala kang makikita ron. And then after 5 years or 6 years, meron ka isang makikita. And then after several weeks, it grows into a very high tree, bamboo tree siya, no? And when you ask them, gaano ka bilis na-grow ito? You don't say, 6 weeks lang. No, it grew in 6 years. Kasama yung time na dinidiligan natin. Ba? So ganun din tayo, when we're building something to last, it takes time. It feels like, wala nangyayari, and so on and so forth. But you're planting the seed, you're building the foundation. A friend of mine is an architect, and he said that when he's building a house, it's really 2:1. Meaning, if it's a 1 floor, 2 layer deep ang foundation, 2-story deep ang foundation. Kasi sabi niya, it's very important na malalim kasi the higher the building, the deeper the foundation. And mas quality material ang dapat gamitin doon. Kasi kahit pa malalim yun, kung hindi naman quality material ang ilalagay natin doon, guguho din yun. Doesn't matter if you build $1 million house in a swamp. Doesn't matter. Diba? Kasi lulubog din yun. Please type swamp if you can still relate to my illustration. Ayan. Grabe. Swamp. Alright. Sige. So, we've been talking about strategy. Itali natin siya ngayon. Diba? Being a multiplier is very essential. Now, question is, why is it the best strategy? And when we say strategy, it's how you achieve your purpose. Why is being a multiplier the best strategy? 2 words of organizational execution. Because when you multiply yourself, when we multiply our DNA, literally, we operate as one DNA. 3 little pigs, yung 3 little pigs gagawin. We operate as one DNA. We move as one. Aligned na. So pag aligned na, ang bilis na ng kilos niyan. Kasi we're literally on the same page. What we want to avoid, or what really destroys organizational execution in this context, is what I call the knowledge gap. Okay. Ano ba tong knowledge gap? And we talked about this last week, pinahapiyawan ko, and people were much more interested in wanting to know. Please tell me more about the knowledge gap. Okay, the knowledge gap as defined is the mismatch between what you as a CEO knows, you as a business leader knows, as a manager, as a supervisor knows, and what your organization knows. There's a mismatch between you and what you know and what your team knows. And here, napakahirap mag-execute kapag hindi nila maintindihan kung ano yung sinasabi mo. Yes, I'm still here. I'm still here. Nagkaroon ng lag. Please type I'm still. Yes, ayan. Okay, nagkaroon ng lag sa akin. Baka nagka-problema yung internet. Yeah. So the bigger the gap, the harder it is to execute. So our job as CEOs, as leaders, is to narrow, to shorten the gap. And the shorter the gap, the faster we execute. The faster we execute, the faster we get the results. That's why teaching is not really a good thing. It's a great strategy. So, let's talk about the cause muna. Bakit ba nagkakaroon ng knowledge gap sa isang organization? 3 things, diba? Because as CEO, you get different reading. They're reading something else. You're reading books. I'm reading books. Are they reading books? That's another question that you need to answer. Okay? Relationships. We're working with fellow CEOs, right? Are they working with fellow CEOs? They have different relationships. Different relationships, different conversations. And obviously, there are different real-world experiences. Our experiences as CEO is different from what our team experiences. That's why ngayon, yung alam natin na CEO, ibang-iba ang layo sa alam ng ating mga team. Ang problema, the bigger the knowledge gap, the harder it is to execute. So now I'm putting the onus on you, CEO. Now, you know the knowledge gap. It's your job to shorten it. Okay? At hindi ko lang iiwan doon. Ang beauty of principles of scaling ay hindi ko kayo, I'm not gonna leave you hanging. Hindi ko sasabihin, para ma-shorten nyo yung knowledge gap, umattend kayo sa ganito. Hindi natin gagawin yon. Diba? Ibibigay natin ang susi paano ma-shorten ang knowledge gap. Ayos ba? Ayos ba? Please type ayos if you can still relate. Ayan. Diba? Ayos. Okay. So, let's get practical. Ayos. Kaya, ito nga sinasabi, yung mga teammates natin, require niyong manood ng POS. Para alam nila kung ano yung sinasabi nyo. It's not for me. I don't get anything out of this. It's for you. If alam ng team natin kung ano yung pinagsasabi natin, kasi isa pinapanood natin, mabilis ang alignment. Pa-attend din natin sila ng circles. Lalo na if you're an executive member. We designed it in such a manner na kung 1,000 kayo, 1,000 pwedeng umattend ng circle. Diba? Hindi yan parang per head. That's not how we design things. I hope I'm making sense. High blood lang ako kasi eto na resources binibigay na. Diba? Maximize na lang natin. Okay, let's get practical. How do you shorten the knowledge gap and multiply yourself? Para madaling tandaan, 3 T ito. Diba? Alliteration to. Favorite natin yan. J of Enracket ang nagturo sa atin ng word. Gustong-gusto natin to. Kami ni Ses, yan. At favorite ni Dayan. Gustong-gusto niyang ina-alliterate ang mga bagay-bagay. Okay, the first one is obviously teach what you know. Okay? Because the faster the people, our team knows what we know, the faster they understand where we're coming from, the faster we can align. So that's the first one. This is a basic fundamental. So we must have an opportunity where we can communicate what our principles are. Kaya nga tayo may DNA Monday. Kaya nga tayo may BR. Diba? The quality of teamwork depends on the quality of communication. So use those meetings to communicate your principles. Second, eto. Train people to... Pakichat nga! Train people to read. High blood na naman ako Ayan. Diba? Ginusto nyo to. Sermon. Train people to read. Listen ito ang napansin ko. Lalo na sa Pilipino. Hindi yan magkukusang magbabasa. Okay? Hindi yan, gusto kong magbasa. Hindi. We need to force them to read. Ilagay natin sa sistema natin na pag ikaw, you're part of my team, you're going to read. And that's what I did. I learned that 2015. No, when I was a manager, this is me. This is our shot. Okay, I was a manager of learning in the talent development, and I was building my team. So if you're I had the opportunity to do that. No, so when I was building my team, sabi ko, bagets, di ba? Parang may asawa na ako yan, di ba? When I was building my team, sabi ko, you're going to read. So we read one chapter a day. Hey, hindi if you're gonna work with me, you're going to read. If not, di ba, nice knowing you. Kasi hindi ka magiging masaya. Katrabaho ko. You know, I'm using my position power to force the issue. So I get people who are readers. Okay, they read. Yan. And when I went and I became director sa Labor, we force function this. These are management classes. Yan. So, because it's very important that, when I talk about Jim Collins, we talk about Ramban, sino yon? Reading the books that I read. Then you'll have an understanding, ito pala yung sinasabi niya. Yan. When I was director of Labor, I made it a mandatory na you'll be reading books. And then, here, sa CEOInsight Asia, we started reading. This is a treaty, this is Mel, this is Chris, and we're reading the third door. We read, one chapter a day. And how do we do that? We read the books, we highlight the quotes, and then we leave voice messages of our insights. So nakikinig kami ng mga voice messages ng bawat isa. Point is, there's no excuse not to read and make this happen. Make sense? Please type yes, I. Pag andyan pa kayo, ayan. Diba? Yan, wala yung chatbox ko. Ayun, chatbox ko. Ayun. Di excuse ang busy. Word. Hindi excuse ang pagiging busy, ha? Hindi yan excuse. Okay, next. Ayan. Next. Here's the beauty, no? Ito, nag-pop ito kahapon. Sellers Hub has been doing management classes for 1 year, and they even bought books for the people who will be joining those management classes. Yan. So like I've mentioned, bago ako pinutulan ng mga tao rin. So like I was mentioning, I've been doing this for over a year. I'm saying I'll give you books. Alam niyo ba kung ilan na nagtanong sa akin? I can count in one hand. 1 year and a half. Well, 1 year and 1 week. I've been offering free ebooks. Ilan ang nag-message sa akin, nag-message sa page, nanghingi ng copy, I can count in one hand. Diba? So, now, who's doing the management classes? Those the best. Sino mga the best? Ayan, sila yan. Sellers Hub. Right? So, it's very important that to multiply yourself, you have to train people to read. And last, take people with you. I've mentioned about this kanina. Ano oras ba? Oh, no! Overextend ako. Extend ako 5 minutes. I mentioned this kanina, I was at Comizen, and we were doing whiteboard sessions, and we have different CEOs there bringing their team with them. Para mas mabilis, di ba? They get the direct information from the people sharing kung ano man yung principles na sinashare natin. So, with that, take people with you. Okay? So, shortening the gap, this image you can carry in your head, teach what you know, train people to read, and last but not the least, take people with you. In closing, ayan, abot ako, in closing, we're all about being a multiplier here, and the first week, it's all about life-changing impact in an ever-increasing measure. And I want to close with a story. I was driving sa aming, nagpa-park kasi ako dito sa amin. Ang parking namin dito is sa basement. So pag-aangat ka, syempre, palabas ka sa highway, paangat yung parking. At isang pet peeve ko rito is yung mabibitin ka ron. So ang perfect scenario is pag nakita ng guard na palabas ka na, sasabihin ng guard, pahihintuin niya yung mga dadaan, 'di ba? Para makaangat ka, tuloy-tuloy. Ang hate ko, yung sasabihan kang ganon, tapos pagpaangat ka, biglang sasabihin ng guard, ganon. So mabibiting ka, tapos padadaanin niya yun. Parang sabi ko, kaya ka nga nandyan para harangin. Those little things, it's not a little Kasi when we get used to mediocrity, diba, it becomes the standard. And for me, Hindi na pinapalampas yung mga ganon. And bottom line is, it's not excellent. You know, what happened now is it's not excellent, diba? So we don't want that. We don't want mediocrity to be the standard. And in this ecosystem, we only have one standard. That's excellence. We only have one timeline. That's yesterday. And multiplying ourselves, what we want is to multiply the culture of excellence in our company. And this is the image that we want you to take home. CEOInsight Asia company here, we constantly inject on a regular basis, every 7 days, the principles of excellence, principles of execution, being surrounded with people who think that way. And once you get injected, you bring that home to your companies, and that's how you start to spread the culture. That's how you multiply ourselves, and that's how we impact the world. So here's my closing thought. On time ako, on time ako. 2 things that will make the biggest difference between who you are now and who you will be in 5 years. 2 things. Take a picture of this. The books you read and the people you associate yourself with. And these 2 things is offered here at CEOInsight Asia. We have world-class content in principles of scaling. We have world-class content in insights. You have CEOs who think of elevating the standards of the practices here in business landscape. And you want to be a different version of you in the next 5 years, be part of this ecosystem. So with that, I give the floor back to Jill. Floor is yours, ma'am. Thank you for having me. Cheers, cheers.
Okay, one moment. Ayan. All right, can you hear me, Sir Fa? Just to
Yes,
confirm.
ma'am.
Been
Yes, ma'am.
encountering some issues as well. Thank you so much again, Sir Fa, and to all our viewers via Zoom and Facebook. So medyo malaman-laman na naman ang ating first Friday of December. So for our Insight contributor, Sir Fa, have you chosen po, or would you like?
Oh, si Chris, si Chris.
Okay. Yes. So we'd like to hear one insight from one Insight contributor. So yes, Ma'am Chris, the floor is yours po.
Hello. Happy POS Day. Yeah, for me, there are actually a lot to absorb. But for me, yung shortening the knowledge gap is very important. And actually, shout out kay Jake. Nandito si Jay, one of our associates. We really require part of our team to be involved in principles of scaling and hopefully join the circle meetings, because we want to operate in a way na we're bound for greatness. Kasi what we're doing here, especially, I'm a dreamer. So, super taas nung what I want to accomplish. And I think hindi ko yun magagawa if sobrang layo ng gap in terms of knowledge gap. Like, I want to make something happen, pero yung mga kasama ko, kung hindi nila maintindihan what I really want to accomplish, hindi namin magagawa yon. And that's why, by making the knowledge gap shorter and mas konti, to the point na mag-mind meld na kayo. Pag pareho na kayo ng galawan, pareho na kayo ng iniisip. And it is true, reading the same books, with the same, sharing the same vision, and then same capacity and same capability in terms of executing. So that's my key insight for today.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ma'am Chris. Very well said. Gusto sana magdugtong doon, but nasabi niya na lahat ang gusto kong i-share din. So, yes, again, thank you so much for joining us today in our Principles of Scaling. Also, before we officially end, I'd like to invite any member of CEOInsight Asia. If you're interested to be one of our hosts or operator for Principles of Scaling, feel free to let us know. We are more than happy to welcome you and show you the ropes. You know, for me, this is not just taking on a role or responsibility added workload, but along the way from the interaction with other members of CEOInsight Asia, we can really learn a lot. So yes, highly encourage siya. So again, thank you so much. Happy Friday. Happy first Friday of December. We have 4 weeks left for the month of December. Looking forward to seeing everyone. So to close, everyone, if you can see and hear me clearly pa din, kindly comment, hello CEOs, or hello CEOs na lang. Hello CEO or hello CEOs. Nawala na yung ibang O dyan. So yes, thank you so much everyone. Have a great Friday. Bye!